turn on your notification bell. You will still get those information you are looking for. Thank you.
Nigeria at risk of becoming a pariah state if it fails to heed to the directive of the United Nations, that is, the United Nations Human Rights Council Working Group on Arbitrary Detention. They have given directive or opinion for the Nigerian government to release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu from detention. They have declared that the whole process of arrest, which is not in any way arrest, is just abduction, the extraordinary rendition, torture, and continued detention of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu without due process. They declared it completely illegal. The United Nations declared it illegal. So, if Nigerian government fails to do this, to heed to the instructions of the United Nations, they face being a pariah state. Yes, they will have a diplomatic role with the United Nations. That's simple. This is coming from Aloy Ejimakor. Aloy Ejimakor is saying this. He said the risk of becoming a pariah state because they will have a diplomatic role with the UN. This is what Aloy Ejimakor said in his statement. I quote, the United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention is a quasi-judicial body that has a subsisting legal mandate of the United Nations to consider and adjudicate human rights petitions against member nations of the UN. Its rulings or decisions, that is diplomatically called opinions if you like, such as was recently issued in favor of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, are legally binding on Nigeria on myriad grounds, including the fact that the decision is based on the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and both of which Nigeria ratified several decades ago. So, ratification is a means by which a nation makes itself subject to international laws and treaties, and by the provisions of Section 12 of the Nigerian Constitution and the plethora of decisions by the Supreme Court of Nigeria, ratification makes Nigeria subject to whatever it ratified. It needs to be made clear that the UN Working Group is an integral arm of the United Nations Human Rights Council, which has the broader UN mandate to determine human rights issues emanating from member nations of the UN. It goes without saying, therefore, that as a member of the United Nations, Nigeria is subject to decisions issuing from these UN bodies. It will be recalled that the UN body recently considered Nnamdi Kanu's matter and held that the removal of Mr. Kanu from Kenya amounted to extraordinary rendition. In clarification, the body further held that Mr. Kanu's arrest and transfer to Nigeria lacked a legal basis and due process of law in violation of Article 9 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Article 9 of the Covenant. In its conclusions, the UN body held that the appropriate remedy would be for the government of Nigeria to release Mr. Kanu immediately and accord him an enforceable right to compensation in accordance with international law. Without more, Nigeria is duty-bound to implement this decision in its letters and spirit, and it is expected to do so promptly and to, within 6 months, file a formal report of its implementation with the United Nations. Unarguably, failing to implement this decision would mean that Nigeria is thumping its nose at the United Nations and unwittingly triggering a nasty diplomatic conflict that could make it a pariah state. End of quote. That is what the Aloy Ejimakor said about this issue of the United Nations giving Nigeria directive to release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and also to pay him compensation, to compensate him adequately for all the things, the torture, for all the torture, the extraordinary rendition, and what have you, and the continued incarceration since last year, that should be June, up until this moment, just a year plus. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has been in detention for no just cause, for no reason that can be Nigerian government can be that is tenable in short. No reason that is tenable. They have flimsy reasons. All the things they have been saying about Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, the federal government is a ruse and just a conspiracy. Yes, to give dog a bad name. That's all. That's all. So UN said you must release him. He did nothing wrong in the eyes of the law. And so you cannot, because of your hatred, because of you want to defend yourself, you want to make sure that nobody speaks about your government, the evil you are doing, and your inability to govern well, your ineptitude, your gross inertia, and nobody should say it. And anybody that says it, you go after that person. There is a body that is, the United Nations Human Rights Council Working Group on arbitrary detention is there. So Nigerian government, they have been caught in the web. So they will not escape this one. Certainly, they will not escape. Aloy Ejimakor said it will brew a nasty diplomatic relationship between Nigeria and the United Nations, which will lead to automatically to Nigeria being a pariah state. A pariah state. Remember, last Nigeria was a pariah state. It was in Abacha regime. So when things are better, how much more now? If Nigeria become a pariah state now that the economy has nosedived, insecurity is the highest order. Nigerians are looking elsewhere for assistance, even for military aid and legal assistance. Then if Nigeria becomes a pariah state at this level now, you know what it will be? It will be catastrophic and cataclysmic. So that's why Nigeria should avoid this temptation. Muhammadu Buhari administration and the APC-led government should, as a matter of urgency and rule of law and discipline and maturity in government, as a government you have to discipline yourself. There are things that will not be, it will not be something you would have wished to do, but because the law has said so, as a government you have to do it. That is maturity in governance. That's discipline in governance. As a government, you have to discipline yourself, discipline your government, administration, for you to be able to get it right and rule well, so that development will come to your people, to your country, and your country will be better for it. That's it. So Muhammadu Buhari administration has no option. We have said it before now. The only option they have is to release Mazen Nnamdi Kanu as soon as possible. And they have 6 months to file to the United Nations the report of all these things, the implementation of this directive and all that, and the adequate compensation of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu. Of course, it will be in the report. The release and everything will be there. So they have to do it. They have no option. It is binding. Aloy Ejimakor said it is binding. They are duty bound to do this.